I'm here once again, brothers and sisters, to teach on a topic that I titled How to Become What? An Extrovert when you are what? Introvert. What do I mean? When we are young, when we are a child or kid, our parents used to tell us not to associate with what? Strangers. Meaning that they stop us not to communicate with any strangers around us or in the community, in the society, in the town, even in the city. They don't allow us to associate with them because they think we may be what? Hot. Quite corrected, they are right. Why? Because it is the fear of the society that make them, and it is what is going on in the society that make them not to allow us to communicate with a stranger. But I'm here to tell you a word. We are in a world today where we are that if you do not communicate with a stranger, you are what? You are broke. What do I mean? When you are introvert, that means it limits your motive of thinking. It limits your system, your score, everything, your mode of what? Reasoning. But when you become extrovert, you are a businessman, you are a marketer, you are exporter, importer, any kind of association you do what? You involve yourself. If you don't associate with a stranger, you are automatically what? Broke. Why? Because it limits you from not acquiring what? Culture. It limits you not acquiring things that you ought to acquire in order for you to become extrovert. This is very important. Why? Because if you are shy, this was my problem when I was a kid. I was always shy to speak in a public. I do hidden myself from people. Why? Because I don't want to make a mistake. Because I do reason if eventually I made a mistake, people will laugh. They will use it to make this or that against me. But I've come to realize that the more mistake you make, the more extrovert you become. What do I mean is that the more mistake you make, the more socialize, the more open your brain is. But if you become shy, that you don't want to communicate with people around you, don't want to associate with strangers, you cannot develop your what? Your system of speech, your culture. You cannot even develop other people's culture. You cannot even acquire knowledge. You cannot even know many things. Why? Because if you are a businessman, you have different places to travel to. You have different areas, different angles to go because of your business. But when you travel to these places, do you communicate with strangers? Do you ask a question? Are you a type of person that is shy to ask a question because of language barrier? Or are you a type of person that is open to ask a question whether the question is wrong or the question is right? All you want is to understand the stranger. Why? Because it's very important as a businessman, as a human, for you to associate with other strangers. Because the more you associate with other strangers, the more develop you acquire. And the more you become shy, the more you keep and you become what? Introvert. But if you want to become what? Extrovert, you do what? You speak to people around you. They do what? The strangers. They open up what? Your skull. That is the reason why it's very important for us to know what and how we passed our stages in life. It does not matter if you don't know how to speak the language. That does not matter. Ask it anyhow you can ask it. What you want is the result. Try to become what? Extrovert when you are what? Introvert. Why? Because it's very important. You don't know where you are heading to and you don't know where you are going. If you become shy, you may do what? It may lock down your dream. It may close your chapter and it may destroy many things. Why? Because the more shy you become, the more dormant you become. And the more question you ask, the more knowledge you acquire. If you don't ask question, you remain dormant, which is not what? Good. Try to become what? Extrovert instead of you becoming what? Introvert. This is all I have for you. May God bless you. And do not be shy to ask a stranger a question, because we are in a world today. If you don't associate with a stranger, you are automatically broke. You are mentally broke, financially broke, academically broke, even with communications you are broke. That means it's very important for us to communicate with strangers in anywhere we go. It does not matter the type of color you bear. What matter is for you to become extrovert instead of what? Introvert. This is all I have for you. May God bless you. And never you do what? Limit or be shy to ask a stranger a question in order for you to acquire more knowledge. And in order for you to do what? To develop their own culture. For you to do what? To improve anything you are doing. Is very important. I truly love you all. Try to do what? To know this. Because the more you go, the more you develop. You know that when we are a child, we play like a child, and when we become old, we act like a matured person. Try to associate with the strangers. Don't be shy. They will not kill you, they will not hurt you. Why? Because what you want is what you will go after. You know what you want from them, and once you get it, you don't leave them. You keep communication with them so that you can develop more. Why? Because if you have one stranger today, you may have two tomorrow. The same way it increase, and the same way you have population of them, the same way you acquire knowledge. This is all I have for you. Try to become what? Extrovert instead of what? Introvert. May God bless you.